Russia doesn't need aircraft carriers anymore. Russia's only aircraft carrier, the Admiral Kuznetsov, has been a clown show affected by breakdowns, deadly accidents, and mishaps. It's currently in dry dock and may not return to action for some time, if at all. The Kuznetsov, even when things are working, still belches out thick black smoke from its antiquated use of a tar-like substance called mazut, for fuel power. The Kuznetsov has been an embarrassment. With all of these difficulties, maybe Russia doesn't even need an aircraft carrier. Russia does have an effective nuclear triad. The Navy boasts several capable nuclear-powered boomer submarines that can fire nuclear missiles. From Moscow's point of view, it would be nice to have a carrier that could launch airplanes to deliver nuclear bombs, but that's not a showstopper. Russia's existing nuclear triad is adequate. Also, the current war against Ukraine has been primarily a ground conflict. The Russian Navy in the Black Sea has been rendered impotent after the sinking of the advanced missile cruiser and flagship Moskva at the hands of the Ukrainians in April. A functioning carrier would have given Russia more military options and bombing capability had the Kuznetsov been deployed to the Black Sea when fighting broke out. But Russian aviation has struggled over Ukraine, and the carrier-based fighters may not have made a difference due to effective Ukrainian anti-aircraft fire. Russian President Vladimir Putin likes to tout Russian weapons for propaganda effects, such as new hypersonic missiles and ICBMs that the leader calls the best in the world. A functioning aircraft carrier would help national morale and prestige, plus give the Russian Navy more reasons to ask for additional resources to populate a carrier strike group. But Russia has a regional navy, not a blue water navy. Efforts to expand the scope of the Russian Navy are considered a pipe dream. This must annoy Putin, but he has more to worry about with the struggles of the army. The money spent on the war in Ukraine is going to take resources away from the Navy. Even if the Kremlin wanted to build another carrier, it would likely not have the funds to do so. But let's say the Russian Navy had at least one functioning carrier and began work on a new one. This would still not allow it to project forces beyond its neighborhood. One carrier strike group is not enough. To be sure, the Kuznetsov did make an appearance in Syria in 2016 for 2 months. The battle group only numbered a handful of ships, including a tugboat if the Kuznetsov needed to be towed home, as it did in 2012 and 2015. There were just 15 airplanes on board, and 2 were lost due to accidents. It was more for propaganda effect than military gain. The use of the carrier was also seen as a sales and marketing tactic for Russia's defense industry. Kuznetsov is always meant for more of a defensive capability than offensive deployment. The worry had been U.S. and NATO submarines sneaking close to shore to enable more accurate and deadly missile fire from conventional and nuclear weapons. So the tactical need for the Russian Navy was anti-submarine warfare with a carrier present to counter enemy subs. Another problem with the Russian Navy is the sad state of carrier aviation. Aviators must fly to maintain their edge. With the Kuznetsov in dry dock, pilots are not getting critical takeoff and landing experience, especially during poor weather and nighttime operations. The longer the carrier sits, the worse off naval aviation will be. The Kuznetsov may be out of service until 2024. Laughingly, then-President Dmitry Medvedev once boasted that Russia would have 6 aircraft carriers by 2025. No way is that going to happen. There are musings about a modern Project 23,000E storm carrier, but with the war in Ukraine going so badly, it's difficult to foresee a scenario where that ship could be built. The Russian Navy will continue to be a defensive maritime force to protect its coastline and focus on restoring its reputation as a land power, something that will be hard to achieve after losing so many tanks, armored personnel carriers, and infantry. A new aircraft carrier isn't possible, and maybe Russia doesn't need one in the first place.